Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walah wa ba'd. Now, so we return to our study of this book, 40 Hadith on hijama therapy, this book that we have compiled consisting of narrations that are centered around this important topic of hijama. And we have reached the seventh narration amongst these 40 hadith that have been brought inside of this book. And through students will give me a second. I'm going to share my screen so that you can view the document. Okay. Okay. Bismillah. So we are at the seventh narration that has come inside of our book, the 40 Hadith on cupping therapy. And it comes عن سلمى قالت ما اشتكى أحد إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وجعا في رأسه إلا قال احتجم. So it's reported on the authority of Salma, who was the khadima, or the servant of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that she said, no one complained to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam of a headache except that he would say, get cupped. Except that he would say, get cupped. So as it relates to the narrator of the hadith, and she is Salma, also known as Rafi'. Rafi'. She is the free slave of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And she is the one who had the honor of washing the body of Fatima, the daughter of the Messenger of Allah والسلام, when she passed away. And it was her, along with Fatima's husband, Ali ibn Abi Talib, and likewise Asma bint Umais. Asma bint Umais. They were the ones who washed the body of Fatima, radiallahu ta'ala anha, upon her passing. So this no doubt is a nobility and an honor for Salma. This indicates as well the closeness that she had with the family of the Prophet alayhi. So therefore, she saw things that others did not see. And from that, what she have seen is that anyone who ever came to the Messenger of Allah alayhi complaining of a headache, then he would advise them with the affair of hijama. He would advise them with the affair of hijama. And so this narration, although it is short, it contains some benefits inside of it. We'll suffice with the benefits that we have here, although we're going to bring some additional speech from Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, rahmatullah alayhi, and that which is mentioned inside of Tib and Nabawi. So amongst the benefits that we have in the narration is that the Messenger of Allah alayhi prescribed hijama as a treatment for headaches. He prescribed hijama as a treatment for headaches. Ibn Qayyim, he mentioned inside of Tib and Nabawi, or Tib and Nabawi, prophetic medicine, a chapter dedicated to the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ in relation to as-suda'. Suda' is the Arabic word for headaches. And likewise, Ash-Shaqiqa. Ash-Shaqiqa is a particular type of headache. So Shaqiqa, well, we'll suffice with the Kalam Ibn Qayyim. He mentioned Rawa Ibn Majah fi Sunani Hadithan fi Sihatihi Nadar, that Ibn Majah, he reports in his Sunan a hadith that as it relates to its authenticity, there's some nadar, meaning that there is some kalam, some speech regarding whether or not this narration is authentic. However, he mentions the narration and that he says the Prophet ﷺ kana إذا صدع غلف رأسه بالحناء, that whenever the Prophet himself would catch a headache, whenever he would get a headache, alayhi salam, that he would cover his head with henna. He would cover his head with henna. Now, and this shows you the one of the benefits of the affair of henna, or henna as they say, or henna is how it's pronounced correctly. That in one of its benefits is that it serves to bring about pain relief. It serves to bring about pain relief. As it comes in another narration of the same hadith, and which he would mention, or which Salmashi said, and no one ever complained to him of a wajah, like a pain that he would have inside of his legs, except he would say, dye them with henna. Dye them with henna. Now, and so henna, it has pain relieving properties if it is used properly. And amongst the uses of it is that it can be used to treat headaches. It can use it to treat. It can use to treat headaches. And so this narration mentions that whenever he himself would get a headache, sudi'a غَلَّفَ رَأْسَهُ بِالْحَنَّا, then he would cover his head with hanna. Now, and he would say, إِنَّهُ نَافِعْ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ مِنَ الصُّدَعِ. He would say that it is beneficial بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ in curing headaches. It's beneficial in curing headaches. So this suda, what is it? What is a headache? Ibn Qayyim says that it is alamun fi ba'd al-ajza' al-ra's aw kullihi. It is a pain that occurs either in a portion of the head or in the entirety of the head. Right? Headaches most commonly, barakallahu fikum, they strike on either the front of the head, the back of the head, the middle portion of the head. Maybe they are on one side of the head versus the other. Now, maybe they're on the right side, maybe they're on the left side, like this, or it may afflict the entirety of the head. If it inflicts the entirety of the head, then this is what we refer to as a migraine, right? Most commonly, headaches are targeted. They're going to be in one portion of the head or another, which is why you find that people that will come and they will say, hey, I get migraines. I like to ask them if they want to get a hijama for a migraine. Have you been diagnosed with migraines by a doctor, right? Because sometimes we think that something is a migraine. It may just be a really bad headache. The reality is that it's focused on one portion of the head or another. Those who have actually been clinically diagnosed by a doctor with migraines know the difference. They know the difference. Now, and so فما كان منه في أحد شقي الرأس لازما يسمى شقيقة. But that which afflicts one side of the head over the other, right? Either the right side of the head or the left side of the head, then this type of headache is called a shaqiqa. It's called a shaqiqa, right? Because it afflicts one shaqa, or one half of the head. وإن كان شامل الجميع لازم يسمى بيضة أو بيضة وخورة تشبيها ببيضة السلاح التي تشتمل على رأس كله. If it afflicts the entirety of the head, that which we refer to as a migraine, in Arabic, this is called bayda, and it is called khuratan, and a bayda is like an egg, but what a bayda is referring to here, a khura is referring to here, is like a helmet, right? It's a helmet that a person wears in battle, right? Because the helmet, it covers the entirety of the head, covers the entirety of the head. Now, you can even feel the migraine in some parts of the face as well. Again, those who actually get migraines can attest to this and can tell you there's a difference between a migraine and just a regular headache. Now, and perhaps it may be in the front portion of the head, perhaps it may be in the back portion of the head. And the types of headaches are many. We're going to run through the different types of headaches and the asbab that bring them about. And we'll likewise mention some guidance of the Prophet ﷺ, other than the affair of hijama, in the treatment of headaches. نعم. So it's أنواع كثيرة يعني the types of headaches are many وأسبابه مختلفة and the reasons that bring them about are variant. حقيقة الصرع نعم the reality of it is that it is brought about by way of heat, by way of سخونة, by way of heat that is inside of the head of the person. Yeah, it's a heat that's inside the head of a person, and the heat it occupies a pocket of the head. And it is brought about by way of the body's natural heat, bringing about a steam inside of the body. And now that heat, that pocket of heat, the pocket of steam or heat, is looking for a place to exit, right? Just like when you have heat inside of a pot, you have heat inside of a pot, and as the pot begins to boil, right, and the contents of that pot begins to boil, now the steam is looking for a place to come out. So any opening that that the pot has, the steam will shoot out of that opening, right? Similarly, this is the concept behind a headache. The heat begins to rise inside of the head in a particular pocket, the front of the head, back of the head, side, one side or the other, like this. And I was looking for a place to release. And if it doesn't have a place to release, it's going to boil in that one particular area, thus bringing about pain in that area. Now, and so, now, as it relates to the asbab, Ibn Qayyim mentions that there are many. He says, "Suda yakun an asbab adida." There are many things, various things that bring about headaches. Ahaduha, ani the first reason that and it's actually 1 through 4 that he mentions that brings about headaches is ghalabatu wahid min al-taba'i' al-arba'a, is an increase in one of the 4 humors of the body, right? And for those who have taken our Ash-Shifaa hijama course, you're aware of this concept of the humors, right? So one may have an increase in blood, right? An increase in blood. And this, as we've already covered the narration of Ibn Umar, now he said to Nafi', I can feel the blood raging within me, or reaching its peak inside of me, right? So therefore, find for me a cupper, make him gentle. So this is where we get the concept of hijama being a cure for headaches, especially if the headache is caused by an increase in blood, or the raging of the blood inside the body. So if there's an increase or an excess in the blood buildup within the body, especially that of stagnant or what we call bad blood, then this will bring about a headache. It'll bring about a headache. Likewise, an increase or an excess in the affair of phlegm. In the affair of phlegm, it can bring about a headache, or an excess in the amount of black bile within the body, or an excess in the amount of yellow bile within the body. So an excess or an increase in any of these 4 humors, it can bring about a headache. Therefore, hijama, we know that it is effective in regulating and setting in order these 4 humors, these 4 substances that are inside the body, and setting them in order, thus bringing about homeostasis or healthiness of the body. So this is 1 through 4. He mentions 5, right? يكون من قروح تكون في المعدة. There may be an ailment, right, inside of the stomach, a contusion or some type of ailment inside of the stomach. فيألم الرأس لذلك. And so the head hurts as a result of that. Why? Because there's a connection. There's a pathway. He calls it a munhadar. Munhadar is like the same word we use for a highway, right? There's a pathway between the stomach and the head. So if something is not right in the stomach, then what's the word I'm looking for? This situation, the stomach situation, for lack of better words right now, it may not cause uneasiness of the stomach. Maybe your stomach is okay. It feels okay at least, but there's something going on in the stomach, and as a result of that, it sends a signal up to the head, and thus it causes a pain in the head. Sixthly, من ريح غليظة تكون في المعدة. Likewise, there may be a buildup of gas within the stomach, and thus this it travels and sends a signal up towards the head, thus causing the head to hurt as well. Seventh, يكون من ورم في عروق المعدة. the lining of the stomach. The lining of the stomach, there may be a tear within the lining of the stomach, and thus the head hurts as a result of that. الاتصال الذي بينهما, due to the connection that there is between the stomach and the head. Now, he likewise mentions الثامن, eighth, صداع يحصل عن امتلاء المعدة من الطعام, is when a person eats too much. A person eats too much. Now, a person may eat too much, and the stomach becomes full and overstuffed with food. And as a result of that, once the food begins to digest, the excess food stays inside of the stomach, whereas some of it may digest, but some of it does not. And the gases begin to break it down and affect it, and thus it causes the head to hurt, and one begins to feel stuffy inside of the head or congested inside of the head as a result of that, and thus it brings about a headache. Ninth, يعرض بعد الجماع لتخلخل الجسم. A headache that may occur after intercourse. A headache may occur after a sexual intercourse, and this is because when a person, their body gets aroused, trying to find the best words here, the body gets aroused and the temperature in the body begins to rise, right? The temperature in the body begins to rise, and thus one is excited beyond their norm, right? You're excited beyond the norm, that which the body is typically used to, right? And as a result of that, once the body begins, it calms down and you release and it calms down, then a headache is left behind. A headache is left behind as a result of that. 10th, صداع يحصل بعد القيء أو الاستفراغ, is after vomiting, after throwing up, or after vomiting, or after the stomach becomes empty. Then as a result of that, a headache is brought about due to an excessive amount of dryness. Now there's nothing there in the stomach, and so due to that emptiness that's there in the stomach, then the stomach's natural gases, and it begins to eat away at the inner lining of the stomach. As a result of that, the natural gases and steams, they begin to rise up from the stomach towards the head, thus causing a pain in the head. الحادية عشرة, the 11th reason, صداع يعرض عن شدة الحر وسخونة الهواء, is headache that is brought about due to an increase in the heat, an increase of heat, and thus the air that's inside of the body, it's hot, and thus this heat affects the body to the point that it causes or brings about a headache. الثاني عشرة, the 12th reason that Ibn Qayyim mentions, ما يعرض عن شدة البرد, due to that which is brought about from an intensity of cold. It's extremely cold, and the body it feels the effects of that cold, and as a result of that, the body begins to work to try to warm itself up, and thus a headache is brought about on the account of that. 13th, الثالث عشرة, ما يحدث من السهر وعدم النوم, that which is brought about from fatigue, a person not getting proper rest. A person not getting proper rest, a person depriving themselves of sleep. This is something that can cause a headache. It can cause a headache or bring about a headache. And as we mentioned, you have certain things that when it comes down to things that ail the body or ways of treating the body, that are those things which do not require medical knowledge or expertise. One simply treats them by way of their opposite. So for example, a person is feeling the effects of sleeplessness, thus a headache is brought about, thus crankiness may be brought about, or whatever comes about as a result of a lack of sleep. Then the way that you treat that ailment is to do what? To go to sleep, get some rest, take a nap. Now, certain ailments and sicknesses are brought about by way of a lack of eating. right? So how do you fix that? You eat something. You eat something. Any pain, the pain that you find when you're hungry, and you eat. How you treat that pain is you eat, and so on and so forth. You're thirsty, right? And what is brought about from the dryness and the likes of this, then you get something to drink, and so on and so forth. Now, and so when a person is extremely tired, then what they should do is get some rest. ما يحدث من ضغط الرأس وحمل الشيء الثقيل عليه is a pressure build up inside of the head. A pressure build up inside of the head. And for this one, you'll find that head cupping is extremely effective for this. But you feel that pressure build up inside of the head, um, or likewise carrying heavy things on top of the head can bring about a headache. Another one, which maybe some people should pay attention to, right? ما يحدث عن كثرة الكلام. A headache brought about by talking too much, right? A person talks so much that they give themselves a headache. Why? He says because the brain is weakened on the account of excessive talking, right? The brain is weakened. You get mental fatigue. You get mental fatigue from talking so much, and thus a headache is brought about. 16th ما يحدث من كثرة الحركة والرياضة المفرطة, that which is brought about by excessive movement. A person is extremely active, extremely athletic. Those who play sports a lot may play so hard, you may play basketball so much, you may work out so much, you may do whatever you do so much that excessiveness in movement, excessiveness in activity, the over amount of activity, it has an effect upon the body, thus bringing about and causing a headache. Now, likewise, that which is brought about by psychological issues such as stress, such as depression, anxiety, sadness, these things can cause the head to hurt as well. Likewise, 18th, that which is brought about from extreme hunger, that which is brought about from extreme hunger, فإن الأبخرة لا تجد ما تعمل فيه, because the natural gas inside of the stomach, when a person is starving, they have no food, then the natural gases don't have anything to act out on. They don't have anything to work on, meaning that which the natural acids inside the stomach and gases inside the stomach that are used to break down our food, to help us digest our food. Well, there's no food there, right? So, and so these gases and these acids begin to rise up towards the head, thus bringing about headaches. Now, likewise, 19 ما يحدث عن ورم في صفاق الدماغ يجد صاحبه كأنه يضرب نعم. So that which is brought about by way of an excess amount of serotonin, right? An increase in serotonin inside of the head. And so as a result of that, a person will get a headache it pounds, and it feels as though, as Ibn Qayyim says, and يضرب بالطارق على رأسه, like one's being hit in the head with a hammer. That's how it feels, like you're being hit in the head with a hammer. 20th ما يحدث بسبب الحمى باشتعال حرارتها, that which is brought about by fever. A person has a fever, and due to the intensity of the heat, the excess heat of the body, it brings about pain in the head. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Allah ta'ala knows best. Now, as it relates to the methods of treatment of headaches, then of course there's the affair of hijama. And for those students of ours who have taken our course, and likewise those who may be interested in taking the course, or other hijama practitioners, we know that there is a difference in the way that we treat certain headaches, right? For example, the way that we treat a migraine is going to be different than the way that we treat just your average headache, right? So the average headache, you take into consideration what portion of the head that is affected, in addition to certain cups that we're going to put on certain sunnah points like the kahil. You will put a cup on the yafuq. You likewise put a cup on the two cups on each side of the two necks, what we call al-akhda'an, the side of the neck, right, just below the ears. And then if the headache is if it's a shaqiqa on the right side of the head, you put a cup on the temple of the right side of the head. If it's shaqiqa on the left side of the head, you put a cup there on the left side of the head. The only place that we say that the cup should not be put is what is referred to as the occipital protuberance, that on the back of the head, just below that hook. If you have a funny shaped head like myself, you should not put a cup there, as it can cause rather memory loss, or can affect the memory. So we say that a cup should not be put there unless it is a necessity, because you'll find that some headaches actually target that exact spot. If a headache is targeting that exact spot on the head, and you can put a cup there in the time of the headache, right? But be very careful. So just putting a cup there, just because the person says, "Hey, I had a cup there put there before," as some of the people, they've come to me for hijama. They say, "Can you put a cup right here? Some guy cut me there years ago, and I like how it felt." And you find out where it is they want the cup, and you say, "No, a cup should never be put there. Don't ever let anybody put a cup there unless there's an absolute necessity or need for that cup there." Now, as it relates to the affair of headaches, though, we know that the Messenger of Allah, alayhi salam, he himself would get headaches. Get headaches. And likewise was mentioned by Abu Nu'aym inside of his book At-Tib al-Nabawi. Abu Nu'aym, he mentions in At-Tib al-Nabawi, and هذا النوع كان يصيب النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام. This type of headache called the shaqiqa. The shaqiqa, it used to affect the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. فيمكث اليوم واليومين ولا يخرج. He would remain sometimes for a day or two without coming out. He would stay inside of his house for a day or two without coming out. So we find that the people of righteousness, they may be afflicted with certain ailments. We are tried and tested in this dunya. Some of the people have stated that that headaches are from the signs of Ahl Jannah. But we say that this is not an absolute case. It's not the absolute affair. Why? Because you may have a mushrik who gets headache, right? Munafiq, he gets headaches. So are we saying they're from Ahl Jannah? No, right? So, but people are tried and tested in this dunya. And as the Prophet himself, he mentioned, alayhi salam, amazing is the affair of the believer. For there is good in everything that Allah has decreed for him. And this is only the case for the believer. So if the believer, some goodness comes to him, in asabathu as-sarra, if some goodness comes to him, that he is thankful, yashkurullah, he's thankful to Allah, and his gratitude that he has is better for him than the blessing that even came to him. Now, when asabathu darra, if something harmful comes to him, right, then he is patient. He's patient. And his patience that he has is better for him than if that ailment had not reached him, right? And this is only the case for the believer. So our patience with certain affairs, and what we have to understand as well, is that taking medication, seeking treatment, like hijama, seeking treatment, like taking other affairs of prophetic medicine for our ailments, is not something that negates patience, right? What negates patience is moaning, complaining, wailing, slapping cheeks, tearing the clothing, and the likes of this. These things, they negate patience. As it relates to seeking ailment, the Prophet himself, he said, alayhi assalam, tadawaw, wa khayru ma tadawaytum bihi al-hijama. He said, tadawaw, he said, medicate, or take medicine, take treatment. And the best of that which we can utilize as treatment is hijama. And so, if it were that taking treatment for our ailments negated patience, he himself would not do it. He himself, as we have heard the narration, that the Messenger of Allah alayhi assalam, whenever he himself either sudi'a, where he would have a headache, then he would utilize henna. He would cover his head with henna. He himself took treatment. He received hijama on several occasions. Abu Tayyibah would cup him. He likewise advised others with it. If it were the case that taking treatment for ailments negated patients, he would not command or advise with it, and he likewise would not do it himself, right? Because he's the most patient of the people. Um, However, it is not wajib. It is not wajib to take treatment. It is not wajib to take treatment. If a person does not want to take treatment, then it is totally up to them, right? It's totally up to them. And even more so, it's not wajib to take some, some of the new treatments that they have today that have all types of harmful side effects to it and the likes of this. Now, at any rate, in relation to treatment for headaches, Ibn Qayyim says, علاجه يختلف باختلاف أنواعه وأسبابه. That the method of treatment for headaches is going to vary in accordance with the various types of headaches that there are and the causes for those headaches. نعم. فمنه ما علاجه بالاستفراغ. So amongst the headaches, there are those headaches that are treated by way of emptying the stomach, right? Like we spoke before, how a person may get too full, right? They stuff themselves with food till they can't move. The food is just, weighing them down and bogging them down, and it has an effect on the body. Now, and from the effects that this can have on the body, it can bring about a headache. And so what you have to do is istifrag. You have to empty the stomach, right? They have to empty the stomach, either by way of intentional vomiting, or just waiting for the stomach to waiting for the food to digest, and thus the headache will be removed. From that, there is that which is treated by way of eating. Right? Sometimes you may need to eat something. You have a headache from hunger, then get yourself a sandwich and eat something. Now, from it, ما علاجه بالسكون نام والدع. From it, there is that which is treated by sitting still. Right? From it, there's that which is treated by sitting still. Now, and from the headaches, there are those headaches that are treated by, you need to just busy yourself. You get the blood flowing, move around, get the blood flowing inside of the body, and thus the headache, it will be removed. From the headaches, there are those headaches that are treated by way of a tabreed, in the cool down, right? Headache is brought about by intense heat, right? When it's really, really hot, summer, you may be working out there in the heat. Some of the men, they may work on the construction sites or whatever case may be, and they work in hot temperatures, and thus it has an effect on the body. You have a headache, right? You need to cool down. You need to do what's necessary to cool down. Sit in some shade, maybe drink some roots, drink some water, and the likes of this, and you find the headache begin to subside. And from the headaches, he says, وَمِنْهُ مَا عِلَاجُهُ بِالتَّسْخِينِ, are those headaches that are brought about by warming the body up. You have a headache from cold, therefore warm the body up, and thus the headache will begin to subside, بِإِذْنِ ta'ala. Now, from those headaches, there are those headaches that are its علاج بأن يجتنب سماع الأصوات والحركات. Those headaches that are treated by way of avoiding sound, right? Too much sound, the body is overstimulated, the mind is overstimulated. These sounds going off, car horns, just phone ringing, alarms and the likes of this, children screaming and stuff like this in the house, and it causes a headache. So you need to avoid that. You need to get some peace and quiet, and this will bring about relief in that time of pain. فإذا عرف هذا فالعلاج الصداع في هذا الحديث بالحناء. So once we understand this, then we understand that the hadith that was mentioned previously, the hadith that comes in the Sunnah of Ibn Majah, which he said in relation to As-Sihha, there is nadar. We have to look at the authenticity of the narration. We find within that narration mention of another treatment for headaches, and that is the treatment of henna, using henna, and one would just simply apply the henna powder to the hair, right? Apply the dry henna powder to the hair, and let it sit there for some time until it brings about relief. Now, this is one treatment amongst the many various types of treatments for that of headaches. And this is amongst the benefits that we find within the narration that we have taken today, the seventh narration in our book, 40 Hadith on cupping therapy. Um, and that anyone who complained to the Messenger of Allah of a headache, he would say to them, get cupped, ihtajim, right? Because he found cupping to be extremely beneficial in treating headaches, especially in certain climates, especially climates the likes of that of the Arabian Peninsula where the heat is intense. Now, um, and especially uh, 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 for certain types of individuals, um, then hijab is especially effective in treating the affair of headaches. Now, and likewise, from the benefits that we take from this narration, the companions they will seek health advice from the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and so they will come to him, asking him about affairs connected to their stomach, as we know within the narration of the man whose brother had a stomach ailment, and he came to the Messenger of Allah, and he commanded him, aslihi al-asal, yani, have him to drink honey. And other than this, many narrations that we can find were in the Sahaba. They would come and ask him for certain health advices, and he would advise them. And this is why we know, why we say that the affair of Tib Nabawi, a prophetic medicine, is wahyun min Allah. It is revelation from Allah Azza wa Jal. For Allah Ta'ala said concerning the Prophet Muhammad alayhi wasallam, La yantiqu anil hawa. In huwa illa wahyun yuha. He does not speak of his own desire. Rather, what he says is revelation revealed to him by Allah. Now, and so therefore, uh, this narration it goes to support our statement that hijama, which is a part of prophetic medicine, now is wahi min Allah. So we stop here, inshallah ta'ala. Allah ta'ala knows best. If any of the students from Ash-Shifaa hijama has a question, you can type it in the Zoom chat. If not, then we will end here. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Okay, Tayyip. Okay, for the henna, do you say put it on the head dry? Yes. So one would put the dry henna powder on the head, supply it to the head. Um, and it's best to ensure that it reaches the scalp. Ensure that it reaches the scalp and dry like that. Yes. Okay. So we stop here. بإذن الله تعالى. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Oh, sister said, is it okay to simultaneously treat for two ailments? Um, it depends what the two elements are. If you're speaking about hijama, um, it depends what the two elements are. Sometimes you'll find that the hijama points for different treatments may overlap. Look at what treatments are attempting to be treated, right? If the points overlap, if it's not going to be too strenuous for the person, a number of factors you have to look at. If it's not going to be too strenuous for the person, um, then maybe one treatment requires a few cups on the leg. Maybe they have some pain in their legs or whatever, and they want to detox. Then I would do something like that. Yes, but if it's something which one treatment is extreme and the second treatment may also be somewhat extreme, then I will not overlap them. Like I will not do them at the same time. So it depends on the situation. طيب. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.